Since the early 1990s, we've seen international players explode onto the NBA scene. As back in the 1990s, you had Hakeem Olajuwon, Toni Kukoc, and Sabonis as real impactful figures who laid the groundwork for today's players. And looking at the next decade in the 2000s, you had legit Hall of Fame talent from overseas. People like Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash, Pau Gasol, as well as Manu Ginobili. And if you want to get really simplistic about it, the 92 Dream Team, in large part, is responsible for this influx of foreign talent. And since that moment, it's been a gradual uphill increase to now in 2022, where nearly every NBA team has some international or foreign player. And if you narrow the scope, looking at the top tier of NBA talent, that once again is dominated in large part by international players, as the last 4 MVP winners have all been from overseas, and most likely the 5th will once again be international with Giannis or Luka Doncic. And looking at the All-Star game, each of the past 2 years, Giannis Antetokounmpo has been the leading vote getter and most popular player. And looking at the All-Star team in itself, last year, just under a third of the players were not American-born athletes. And it's getting so crazy at this point, you could have an entire NBA All-Star team of just international players. At the forwards, you have someone like Pascal Siakam and Andrew Wiggins. At the guards, Luka and SGA. And playing center, you have Embiid or Nikola Jokic. That right there is a pretty stacked lineup, and yet still, you have players like Giannis, Rudy Gobert, OG Anunoby, Rui Hachimura, Steven Adams, DeAndre Ayton, even Kristaps Porzingis. And speaking of Porzingis, remember back in 2016 when he was the quote-unquote unicorn and the next great star? Back in 2016, the NBA, yes, they had foreign-born talent, but compared to now, it's not even comparable, as Porzingis in today's NBA is an average player who averages 20 points per game and really nothing special. And when you talk about influx of talent, in large part it's due to international superstars. And at this moment in time, just kicking off the 2020s, I believe in the next couple of years, you're going to see international talent, international stars, overtake the American-born players as the majority when it comes to top-tier NBA talent. As once again, in a short 25-year time period, European and foreign players, they've gone from soft and weak in the 2000s and not being taken serious in the 90s to legit top-tier players, MVPs, and of course, Hall of Famers. And one thing I do have to add, looking at the American superstar athlete, and just America in general, I think when it comes to basketball, we've gotten lazy, and the top-tier players care more about cashing a paycheck than winning games or improving.
Dollar bills, y'all.
And when it comes to international players, specifically in Europe, these guys from the age of 15 are playing grown men and are legit pros. Compared to America, where you have the AAU circuit, EYBL, and a lot of great leagues, but it's not teaching players to play the game and be fundamentally sound. As looking at someone like Luka Doncic, he came in fresh off the boat, averaging 25-5 and dominating in Dallas. And if you want to be 100% honest, Luka's transition was so seamless because over in Europe, you're playing the second best league with harder defense and much tougher rules. Compared to the NBA, where it's still the best overall league, there's great athletes, but the defense and rules are 100% easier, empowering the offense. You've seen numerous players talk about this, people like Lauri Markkanen, Nikola Jokic, Luka himself, even Giannis. Playing overseas at age 15 to 18 and coming over to the NBA is 10 times harder than playing AAU, college basketball, or the G League. And looking at the NBA media, when it comes to international stars, for some odd reason, they're always upset about them, downgrading them, or slighting them when it comes to their overall play or accomplishments. In the past, you had some analysts saying Giannis couldn't be the face of the NBA because of his name. You had guys saying Nikola Jokic was the worst NBA MVP since the mid-1970s, Even recently, people saying Luka Doncic was not better than Anthony Davis. For some odd reason, these players get graded on a negative curve. And even looking past the media, when it comes to NBA players past and present, mainly present, there is a weird standoffish and kind of abrasiveness when it comes to embracing these players as real faces of the game. I mean, when it came to Giannis, it took him dropping 50 to get recognition and have players tweeting out and respecting him. If I could make an analogy, it's like an old Western standoff where the out-of-town stranger comes in, he starts making waves, and the people in town push back and kind of resent him.
Listen, stranger, this town ain't big enough for the two of us.
It ain't? Pardon me, Mac.
Also, one big thing people are overlooking when it comes to this era and the influx of talent, also, we have stars from the 2010s who are finally hanging it up this decade. People like LeBron James, Chris Paul, James Harden, KD, Steph Curry, and especially Kawhi Leonard. Guys who shaped the NBA are on their way out, and much of the 1990s, there's definitely a change in the guard heading into the next era, as we're going from LeBron, Curry, and KD to the era of Giannis, Luka, and Jokic. And with those guys being the face of the NBA, you already have to understand, for the 2020s and especially the 2030s, the best overall player and the face of the NBA is going to be an international superstar. And for the NBA's history, that is extremely rare. Yes, you've had Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan, international guys who've had their run, a 2 to 3 year spurt, they're the clear-cut best player in the world. But when talking about the face of the NBA, you've never had a guy for a 5-year period who was the best like Giannis. And when it comes to that big three trio of Giannis, Jokic, and Luka, the last piece of the puzzle, and I guess you could say the final infinity stone, is Victor Wembanyama. As for him, he's the best prospect since LeBron James, and is quite literally an alien in the last piece of the puzzle. And once again, looking at the old NBA superstars like LeBron, KD, and Steph, those guys for the 2010s did wonders for the NBA. But around 2019-2020, for some reason the NBA's viewership plummeted and has tanked tremendously. I don't know the exact reason, but it's undeniable NBA ratings have plummeted in recent years. And look, if I had to guess one major reason why, it's because NBA superstars nowadays are hopping teams every 4 to 5 years. Compared to players in the past who are loyal to a team, a franchise, and most importantly, a city. And if you think that's cheesy or corny, I really don't care, because at the end of the day, it's 100% true. As nowadays in 2022, when we talk about NBA teams or NBA players, for the most part fans root for players over teams. Compared to back in the day, when you were a Lakers fan, a Pistons fan, a Hawks fan, you were the fan of your team, your player, and your superstar who stayed in your city. Looking at this next gen of NBA players and foreign superstars, I think these guys for the most part are going to be loyal and not travel nearly as much. You have Luka in Dallas, the Joker in Denver, Giannis in Milwaukee, Tatum in Boston, and Ja in Memphis. That right there for the most part covers the entire country. The Midwest, the West, the Upper East Coast, the South, really every area of the USA is covered with some team or player who is loyal to that area. And with that being the case, hopefully players bring back rivalries and we have competitive basketball that isn't nearly as buddy-buddy as guys in the 2010s. And look, I am guessing and projecting, but looking at people like Luka Doncic, Jokic, and Giannis, they're on the record saying they want to play for their team and represent their city. For Luka, he wants to be Dirk 2.0, and for Jokic, he wants to be Tim Duncan for the Denver Nuggets. And once again, I do want to reiterate, these guys are built different, and they're going to do it the right way, in a respectable way, when it comes to winning championships, and not by stacking the deck or jumping ship. The bottom line for this video is pretty simple. The NBA in the next 10 years is going to undergo drastic change, with a new era coming in, the old era going out. The torch is 100% going to be passed, and these next generation are going to shape the NBA for decades to come. And hopefully for us, there isn't buddy-buddy basketball, there's more rivalries, the guys value winning championships in their city, and players stay on teams and are dedicated to one city. Now, my final point of this video is once again redundant. Looking at those three superstars, those guys for the next decade are in control and have the potential to drive this league to another stratosphere. And hopefully the NBA media, past players, current players, get on board and ride that ship to the top. As once again, these guys, they're wired different, and the overall approach is great for the NBA. So with that last point being said, that is the end of the video. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.